Once upon a time, in a city called Southampton in England, there lived a girl called Hannah Foster. Hannah was born on 1985, 31st of August. She had a baby sister named Sarah. Now, Hannah was a very kind girl, very generous, and was always ready to help people. Because of this, she wanted to become a doctor. She wanted to take care of people. Additionally, she was naturally intelligent, so she had the brains to go to medical school. Now, she was 16, 17 years old and was still in A levels. So she was preparing for her A levels to be able to take her exams and enter medical school. During this time, at the age of 17, she began to go out with her friends in social gatherings like bars and pubs in England. Now, the legal age of drinking in England is 18 years, but people who are 17 could enter with fake IDs. In any case, Hannah and her friends were able to go to bars and pubs to drink and have fun and spend time together. Now, one day, March 14th, 2003, Hannah and a friend went out for drinks. The first pub they went to was called the Hobbit. There, it was very boring and they were mostly older men, so they decided to leave and go to another bar called Soba. Soba had club vibes, so they could drink and dance. However, because they didn't know anyone really, they decided to call it a night at 10:30 p.m. and begin to head home. Now, Hannah's friend lived far, so Hannah walked her to the bus stop where she would take a bus and go home. But Hannah's house wasn't far. It was about half a mile, so she could walk home, and she decided to walk home after seeing her friend off. Now, that was the last time anyone saw Anna. Around 5 a.m. the following day, one of her parents woke up. They had gone to use the bathroom and then they noticed that Hannah was not yet home. She was not in her bedroom. At this time, they did not think anything of it. They did send her a text asking her where she was. They believed that she was still out or she was with her friend. Now, much later in the morning, around 10:30 a.m., they then began to become worried. So they called all her friends and no one knew where she went to. Everyone assumed that she was home, and that is when her parents called the police. And the police quickly went into action, going door to door looking for Hannah. After all, Hannah is a 17-year-old girl, she was still a minor. Now, the police was able to trace her phone through the phone towers, and they realized that her phone was moving very fast, fast in such a way that the phone had to be in a car. It was bouncing from phone tower to phone tower, and the phone was heading towards Portsmouth. Now, in tracing her phone and in tracking the phone, the police was able to get access into her phone records, and they realized that Hannah at some point had called 999. She had called for help. However, when the operator picked up, no one was speaking. The operator said he heard mumbling sounds, but no one spoke. And then in England, if you do not speak in 30 seconds, the silent solution will kick in. This is a situation where you will hear a voice recording telling you that if you could not speak because you're in danger, you could press 555 and help will come. However, Hannah did not do this. The phone immediately cut off. Now, the police was able to enhance the operator heard, and they realized that it was a man speaking. It was an older South Asian man that was speaking. And using technology, they enhanced it further, and they could hear the man saying, "Keep your head down." Once they heard this, they were scared because this means that Hannah must have been kidnapped by this man. The last time her phone pinged was 5 a.m. in Portsmouth. After that, the phone went off and no one could hear her again. Now, in order to move fast, the police decided to check all the CCTVs around the phone towers that the phone pinged, that Hannah's phone passed through, was scanned, and in that CCTV, they found a van, the same van that went through all those phone towers at the exact time her phone pinged to those phone towers. The van was a white one, a delivery van. Although they couldn't see the plate number of the van wasn't common. It was only one of 10 in the country. But still, it was difficult to find who owned the van. 24 hours later, a young girl's body was found. It was found in the bushes in Southampton. Upon discovery, it was confirmed that it was Hannah's body. Her body had been brutally beaten up, and upon further investigation, it was found that her attacker had abused her. He had left his semen on her body, but when they ran a DNA database search, they couldn't find a match. That meant the person had not offended before. Now, fortunately, the next day, a recycling plant called the police and told them they had found Hannah's belongings in the rubble. Someone had thrown her bag and phone in the recycling bin. Now, in the weeks following this discovery, Hannah's case was aired on a UK show called Crime Watch. Crime Watch was a show that showcased unsolved cases. They would do a reconstruction of each case to remind people of what information they had. So now for Hannah's case, they did a reconstruction of her leaving the bar and walking her friend to the bus stop and walking home and being attacked. And one of the things that the show kept showing was the van. The van, key piece of evidence that they were trying to use to find who the killer was. Now, it was during this time that someone called into the Crime Watch show and said that he recognized the fan. The fan belonged to his sandwich delivery man. Now, once the police talked to him, they found out that there was a company that delivered sandwiches, and that company had delivery vans and employees that drove these vans. Now, so the police decided to visit the company and question the employees. Now, before this time, there was an employee who looked suspicious. The day after Hannah had been murdered, before everyone else knew about this, he had come to work with fresh scratches on his face. He looked as if he had been attacked the day before, and while he was working, he always complained about his back pain. He said his back was paining him and he had to leave work very early, leaving the van at the company. This man was Maninder Pal Singh Kohli. Singh was a 41-year-old man who was originally from India. He was a husband and a father. He had been living in Southampton for 8 years. He had moved to the United Kingdom through an arranged marriage to a British-born Indian woman. So when the police came to the company, to the sandwich delivery company, to search the vans, they were able to identify his own van. However, the company had said that Singh had not shown up for some weeks. So the forensic team began to search his van, and immediately they found a metal bat that had blood and blonde hair on it. And once they ran this through the DNA, they confirmed that it was Hannah's blood and his semen was also on the bat. Another team of police officers had gone to his home to immediately arrest him. However, when they got to his house was completely empty. The wife and the children were not there. So the police began to search and they found the wife in her parents' home with the two kids that they had. The wife explained that Singh's mother had been sick and he had gone back to India to be with her because she was gravely ill. The police quickly realized that the suspect had fled the United Kingdom. He had gone to a different continent. Now, the issue of extraditing him back into the UK came up. The Indian police explained that they had a lot of cases on their hands. They had a lot of crimes to solve and did not have the resources to begin to search for Singh. India, after all, is a very big country and they have a very high population. So they didn't have the resources to begin to search for him. However, it was rumored that because his brother was a police officer, the police did not show any interest in catching Singh. And so the matter stayed on for a year. There was no progress. Although the UK officers had confirmed that Singh was the one who had committed this crime, his DNA matched, his movement matched, yet they couldn't arrest him because he had run away to India and the Indian police was not cooperating. Now it had been 1 year and this was frustrating Hannah's parents. Out of desperation, they decided to go to India to look for him. They had only 10 days to appeal to the public of India. They went on campaigns, they had flyers, leaflets they shared, they went on TV begging for any information about their daughter, and people took pity on them. Some people were even angry. Because of these appeals that they made, a hotline was set up, and one day a taxi driver called. He said that one of his customers was like the man that had been described by Hannah's parents, Singh. However, he did not know the man as Singh. However, he knew him as Mike Dennis. Mike Dennis had the same story as Singh. Dennis had said he had a wife and 2 kids in the UK who lived in the UK. And anytime he picked up Dennis, Dennis had a peculiar way of reading the newspaper. He would only flip through it without really reading it, just checking the headlines. Now, eventually, more tips came in, and the police was beginning to piece together Singh's movements. And then they realized that Singh had gotten a job with the Red Cross as a doctor. Singh had no medical certificate, he was not a doctor, but the Red Cross had allowed him to administer drugs and injections to the local children in the community. Now, the tips also showed that slowly but surely Singh was getting closer to Nepal. The problem in Nepal was if Singh entered the country Nepal, then he cannot be extradited back to India or back to England for that matter, because they did not have an extradition agreement with these countries. So police in Delhi were beginning to panic. They had to move fast. If the man crossed into Nepal, nothing can be done. However, Delhi was a bit far from Nepal, and time was of the essence. By this time, Hannah's parents had left India. They had done their campaigns and left. So now the police in Delhi called the police officers that were stationed at the Nepal border and told them that a man named Singh, who looked such and such, will attempt to cross the border with a woman and they should stop him. The problem was that Singh's appearance had changed multiple times. He had done this intentionally. At first, he had beards, but he shaved off his beards. However, miraculously, one of the officers was able to identify Singh the moment he was about to enter the bus and cross over to Nepal. They caught him and the woman that was next to him. The woman that was following him was actually his new wife, and she knew nothing about his history. They immediately arrested him and took him to the police station. And there, the new wife was let go because she knew nothing about it. And immediately, Singh began to confess. He said he was tired of running, and he confessed that he had killed Hannah. Now that he was found, the issue was now to extradite him back to the United Kingdom. But then Singh became uncooperative. He and his legal team began to play legal games, and they began to frustrate the extradition process. They will appeal unnecessarily, and they would not appear in court. And eventually, the matter took up to 3 years before he could be extradited. But eventually, October 2008, it was the UK police was given the go ahead to go in, get him, and bring him to face justice. And so they did. Before the judge, Singh explained that that night he had been drinking. When he came out of the bar where he was drinking, that was when he saw Hannah. At this time, Hannah had already seen her friend off and was walking back home. When he saw the direction Hannah was walking, he went before her and parked his van so that when she walks towards the van, he will stop and take her, which he did. He put her behind at the back of the van and attacked her. Instead of letting her go after the attack, he put his hand over her nose and strangled her to death. However, he drove home with her dead body to his house, where he lived with his wife and 2 kids. And there he told his wife that someone had thrown a dead body into his van and he didn't want to go to the police. However, at the end, he was found guilty and sentenced to prison with a minimum of 25 years. He will remain in prison until 2030. Some will argue that he should have gotten life without parole because his act was sudden. Not once did he plan it. He just saw her and attacked her and then killed her and then tried to escape justice by fleeing to India. He showed no remorse throughout the whole thing, and one would think that he would have gotten life without parole. However, we must commend Hannah's parents for their efforts in going to India to find her killer. This is something that the UK police should have done. This brings us to the end of this case.